Joining me now via Skype is the Agriculture Minister and Deputy Nationals Leader David Littleproud. Minister, thanks so much for your time. Let's start with the government's response when it comes to visas for the agriculture sector, because one of the dilemmas right now is we don't want large groups, certainly visitors, travelling to the regions, but some of the sectors need the workers, don't they? What are you doing in regard to that?
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. Good morning. They're essential workers to ensure that we continue to maintain the food security, the continuity to our supply chains that we require from the farm gate through to the shelves in the supermarket. And we rely particularly on those holiday makers and Pacific Islanders and seasonal islander visas. And what we've done is to give them clarity to allow them, if they work in essential service, which is agriculture, then they can extend their visas by a further 12 months. This will give certainty to our primary producers, but also those visa holders, those that are making decisions now about whether they should return home. Because we've got to understand we've got a need right here and now as we get into the citrus season, but also as we get towards the end of the year, it'll peak again, and we're down from around 210,000 holiday makers that have visas to work down to around 140,000. And obviously we're going to hit another peak period, and around 30 to 40,000 of those will be required to work within the agricultural sector. So we're not only thinking about it here and now, we're thinking about in 6 to 8 months as well, when there'll be more demand and the next cohort of backpackers may not come in, and we'll complement that with the Pacific Islander and the seasonal islander visa programs. So this is about continuity. It's a common sense approach, but we're saying they must self-isolate for 14 days before they get into those communities to give them the protection that they need, because these communities don't have the health facilities that you enjoy in metropolitan Australia. So we've got to also do this in a methodical way that will give them the comfort and protection of this virus spreading.
Because one of the other elements that I know you've been asked about this week, and I want to get your thoughts on it this morning for our audience, and that is in relation to grey nomads, because the advice is those leaving the cities. You can understand why many would be thinking, let's get out of the city, let's get to the bush. But as you said, your towns and regions and your areas like Warwick, the facilities just aren't there in a medical sense, are they, if there were to be an outbreak?
And that's exactly right. We just simply don't have the respirators. Some of these little communities only have one respirator, and in fact, if you've got an outbreak in a little community, they would be isolated. We'd have to be transporting them into capital cities as quickly as we can. That's why we're saying only people with essential needs need to be out in these parts of the world in making sure we keep our food security there. And that's why we're saying that we're encouraging those that can work to come out and do it. But those that don't, it's been quite clear, the advice is to stay at home. That's where you self-isolate. You're only to go out if you're part of the essential service. Agriculture as essential service is about keeping our nation's security underpinned by our food security. And that's what is driving this decision. We understand that there's a lot of Australians that unfortunately have lost their jobs, but unfortunately some of these jobs are also hundreds, if not thousands of kilometres away, and farmers don't have the luxury to sit there and hope that Australians may be able to turn up and pick their crops. So it's important we appreciate that as well, but these are in far-flung places, and they don't have the health facilities to support large populations, particularly when they are as acute as COVID-19.
One of the other industries that we know is pivotal to our economy through this period as well. I know that economists are talking about the need to keep construction, resources like mining, but obviously agriculture as well remains a key industry. The government announced some support for freight, for getting supplies into the region. What's happening on that front, and what do you say to those who might be arguing, isn't it time to keep those supplies in Australia at a time of crisis?
Well, let me put it in simple terms, Kieran. We're a nation of 25 million people. We produce enough food for 75 million people. This is an opportunity for Australian agriculture to showcase itself once again on the international stage as not only producing the best food and fibre in the world, but being one of the most reliable suppliers in the world. And that's why we've stepped in, obviously, as international passenger flights have reduced. That means that the cargo that was going underneath their feet has basically diminished, and the costs the cost of sending this stuff over has just skyrocketed. So we've come in and want to maintain those international markets, because this is about profitability to our regional sectors. We oversupply for our own nation. This actually is underpinning our nation's economy in many ways at the moment, the agriculture and mining and resources sector. So it's important we keep the continuity going. We keep the money coming into the nation, as well as keeping our nation fed. And that's why we took the extraordinary steps to put $110 million into a freight subsidy, not to pay for all the freight, but to try and minimise the increase in cost for our producers to continue to send their produce around the world, and continue to be able to take advantage of the free trade agreements that we put in place. This will make sure that not only we actually get through this COVID-19, but it also means that it'll help our economy rebound quicker on the back of agriculture and resources. But this is an important step, and we'll continue to support those exporting sectors while keeping Australians safe at home. That's our primary objective.
My colleague Andrew Clennell had some breaking news at the top of the program that New South Wales Police are expected to launch a criminal investigation into the management, the Carnival Australia responses as part of the Ruby Princess debacle. Do you welcome that development if it eventuates as we expect this afternoon?
Well, look, obviously, if the New South Wales Police are taking steps towards that, then they have information that would lead them to warrant that type of action, and I would welcome that. I think we live in a fair and just society, and it needs to be transparent, and any investigation that police and officials make should be backed by any investigation that's required, and whatever comes out of it, obviously, I think we'll wait and see.
Your department's biosecurity people have been involved in checking some of these ships and aircraft and so on. How does a stuff-up like that happen when it's now created 10% of all cases in this country came from that ship?
Yeah, let me make it clear. The biosecurity officers that are involved in any of the actions around COVID-19, none of those personnel have medical qualifications. They are not medically trained. They do not make medical assessments. They do not make medical recommendations. These brave men and women put their hand up to be the first ones to enter, whether it be ships or planes, to go on and to hand out the messages and to make sure that people understood their responsibilities under COVID-19, to hand out face masks where required, and to actually take those that were showing symptoms and to isolate them into quarantine areas where then state health officials would then go and treat them. The biosecurity personnel that were out there have been the ones that have put their hand up, bravely put their hand up to be at the front line. They don't have any medical expertise, but they've done it to serve their nation and to do what they have been asked to do by those that have the medical degrees and profession that would give us and the nation the best advice.
David Littleproud, Minister for Agriculture and Deputy Nationals Leader, live via Skype from your home in Warwick. I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thanks, mate. Great to be with you.